Philip Pirrip, better known as Pip, is an orphan living in the flat, damp marshes of Kent. His world is dark, frightening, and brutally cold. His vulnerability becomes terrifyingly real one evening in the village graveyard. A desperate, starving convict ambushes him among the tombstones, grabbing him violently and demanding food and a metal file. Even surviving that encounter brings no comfort. At home, Pip is raised by his adult sister, a bitter, angry woman who routinely beats him with a stick she calls Tickler. The only light in this grim existence comes from his sister's husband, Joe Gardry. Joe is a huge, fair-haired blacksmith who acts as Pip's protector, offering him quiet kindness and unconditional love by the forge fire. Pip is poor, is perpetually cold, and physically abused, yet his desires are simple. As long as he has Joe's companionship, his life is grounded by a deeply authentic connection. Then, Pip is suddenly summoned to town. He is pulled away from the familiar marshes and thrust into the alien, intimidating environment of the wealthy upper class. He arrives at Satis House, a massive, gloomy mansion locked away from the sunlight. Inside, he meets the eccentric Miss Havisham, surrounded by heavy curtains, faded wedding dresses, and clocks permanently stopped at 20 to 9. Also living in this decay is Estella, a young girl of startling beauty and intense cruelty. Ordered to play cards with Pip, she stares at him with undisguised contempt, mocking him as a common working boy with heavy boots and coarse hands. Pip finds himself looking down at his own hands, suddenly seeing the grime and calluses as marks of a lower life. The thick leather of his boots, once simple protection against the marshes, now feels like a weight tying him to a class he has been taught to hate. A single afternoon at Satis House poisons his self-image. The honest poverty he once accepted is replaced by an overwhelming shame, driving a desperate need to erase his origins and become a gentleman. As the years pass, Pip is formally apprenticed to Joe as a blacksmith. What was once a stable, honest future now feels like a humiliating, inescapable prison sentence. He lives in a state of constant paranoia. Every time he works the anvil, he dreads looking up and seeing Estella peering through the forge window to mock his soot-stained skin. Desperate to close the gap between them, Pip tries to educate himself. He turns to a sensible village girl named Biddy, who patiently helps him learn to read and write. Biddy offers a grounded, highly intelligent friendship, yet Pip ignores her affection, pouring all his energy into a toxic obsession with earning the respect of a girl who openly despises him. He treats his lessons with Biddy as a mechanical task, a means to an end. His goal isn't to master the alphabet for its own sake, but to strip away the common parts of his speech and mind, page by page, until he is unrecognizable to himself. One evening, a stranger appearing at the village inn interrupts Pip's life at the forge. This is Mr. Jaggers, a formidable London lawyer who carries himself with dark clinical authority. Jaggers delivers a shocking message to the young apprentice. Pip is to be released from his work as a blacksmith immediately because he has suddenly come into great expectations. The conditions are strict. Pip will receive a handsome allowance and move to London to be educated as a gentleman. The sole catch is that the benefactor providing this wealth must remain completely anonymous. Pip jumps to a wildly biased conclusion. Since Jaggers is known as Miss Havisham's lawyer, Pip assumes the eccentric old woman is secretly funding his rise. This sudden influx of money validates his most dangerous delusions. Pip convinces himself that Miss Havisham is grooming him to marry Estella, mistaking a financial transaction for a romantic destiny. Pip wastes no time shedding his old life. He buys expensive new clothes, adopts a snobbish posture, and begins treating his neighbors as inferiors. The cost of this arrogance is paid by the people who raised him. On the morning he leaves for London, his cold condescension reduces both Joe and Biddy to tears. He expects a city of glamour, but London provides a harsh reality check. He finds the streets crowded, filthy, and gloomy, a stark contrast to his romanticized vision of high society. His education falls to Herbert Pocket, a pale young man Pip once fought in the gardens of Satis House. now standing at the door as his assigned companion to teach him how to dress, eat, and behave. As Pip masters the outward appearance of a wealthy Londoner, his inner character rots. He throws money away carelessly, entirely abandoning the honest morality he learned at the forge. The final blow to Pip's illusions comes from Herbert, who reveals the deeply guarded, horrific truth behind Miss Havisham's existence. She is a woman shattered by betrayal. Conned and abandoned by her fiancé on her wedding day, she chose to free Satis House and her life, leaving her wedding cake to rot among withered flowers. Her adoption of Estella had a singular, venomous purpose. She raised the girl to be an unfeeling weapon, designed to attract men and break their hearts in an act of proxy revenge. The realization crushes Pip. He was never being groomed for marriage. He was simply the first test subject, a disposable boy brought in so Estella could practice her cruelty. He sacrificed his honest roots, abandoned the only family that loved him, and traded his soul for a hollow status. In the end, his great expectations leave him entirely trapped in an unwinnable, loveless game.